Hello, my friends. Welcome. Do you find yourself saying yes when you really mean no? You're not alone. In this video, we'll uncover why we do this, why learning to say no is essential for your personal freedom, and how to spot those moments when saying yes is holding you back. It's time to take your power back. Let's dive in. This is part one of 2 videos I'll be doing in the series on how to say no and master the art of personal freedom. In part 1, we'll cover why we always say yes, why you should learn to say no, and how to recognize when not to say yes. In part 2, we'll cover 10 tips for learning how to say no, different ways to saying no, and I'll give you some examples. Also, how to deal with unwelcome responses to saying no. In a world that often values compliance over authenticity, the notion of personal freedom becomes not just a luxury, but a necessity for our well-being. We find ourselves entangled in a web of obligations, constantly saying yes to requests that may not align with our true desires and priorities. Yet, buried under the layers of societal expectations and internalized guilt lies the power to reclaim our autonomy. Learning how to say no isn't merely a skill, it's an act of self-preservation and empowerment. It's about recognizing our freedom isn't just a privilege bestowed upon us, but a responsibility that we owe to ourselves. By mastering the art of discernment, knowing when to say yes, and perhaps most importantly, how to say no, we pave the path towards a life governed by authenticity and personal freedom. So why do we always say yes? Fear propels us into agreement, preferring harmony over confrontation. When we learn to say no, we must learn how to overcome these areas of resistance. So there's fear of conflict that goes on at times. The mere thought of engaging in disagreement can trigger anxiety, leading us to prioritizing peacemaking over honoring our own needs. We opt for the path of least resistance, sacrificing our authenticity to maintain a facade of harmony. Woven into the fabric of our social conditioning, guilt whispers insidiously, convincing us that saying no equates to letting others down or being inadequate. It's the weight of unmet expectations and the burden of perceived obligation that coerce us into compliance. There's also shame that's associated with saying no. Stemming from a sense of unworthiness, shame silently dictates our choices. Shame nudges us toward agreement even when it contradicts our true desires. We fear judgment and rejection, internalizing the belief that asserting our boundaries may lead to abandonment. Let's take a look at how to set boundaries. Without clearly defined boundaries, we inadvertently open the floodgates to incessant demands and expectations, leaving us vulnerable to manipulation and exploitation. When we say yes out of habit, unaware that each concession chips away at our autonomy and self-respect. There's also social pressure that's associated with saying no. Society's relentless emphasis on productivity and people-pleasing amplifies our propensity to say yes, regardless of our genuine inclinations. With social comparison, we fear being labeled as lazy or maybe even uncooperative, succumbing to the pressure to conform to unrealistic standards of availability and agreeability. When our self-worth is compromised, we often seek external validation through constant accommodation, believing that our value hinges on our ability to meet the needs of others. Saying yes becomes a desperate attempt to gain approval and affirm our worthiness, even at the expense of our own well-being. So why should we learn to say no? Learning how to say no is not just about asserting boundaries. It's an act of profound self-respect and self-empowerment. When we constantly say yes to others at the expense of our own needs, we signal to ourselves and the world that our time, energy, and well-being are expendable commodities. In contrast, saying no is a declaration of our self-worth, a recognition that our resources are finite and deserving of preservation. It's a testament to the value we place on ourselves and the boundaries we set to safeguard our mental, emotional, and physical health. Saying no is not merely about self-protection. It's a powerful tool for shaping the dynamics of our relationships. By communicating our limits and asserting our autonomy, we establish a precedent of mutual respect and consideration. We teach others how to treat us by modeling healthy boundaries and refusing to tolerate behavior that undermines our dignity or diminish our worth. In doing so, we cultivate relationships built on authenticity and reciprocity, where both parties feel valued and understood. Above all, learning how to say no is an act of self-compassion and self-care. It's a rejection of the pervasive notion that our worth is contingent upon our ability to meet the needs of others at the expense of our own. By honoring our own innermost desires and prioritizing our well-being, we reclaim agency over our lives and refuse to be complicit in our own self-betrayal or abandonment. Saying no becomes a radical act of self-affirmation, an affirmation that our needs matter. Our voice is worthy of being heard, and our journey toward wholeness and fulfillment is non-negotiable. So how do we recognize when not to say yes? Recognizing when not to say yes is a skill that requires honoring our ability to discern between genuine alignment with our values versus obligations driven by external pressures or internalized guilt. One effective strategy is to cultivate self-awareness by regularly checking in with ourselves before committing to any requests or demand. Paying attention to visceral reactions such as feelings of resentment, execution, or discomfort can serve as a valuable indicators that saying yes may not be in alignment with our authentic desires or priorities. Also, learning to trust your intuition can be instrumental in navigating the delicate balance between honoring your boundaries and maintaining harmonious relationships. Turning into subtle cues such as hesitations, doubts, or a sense of incongruence can provide invaluable insights into whether a particular request resonates with your need or aspirations. By developing a heightened sensitivity to these internal signals and markers, individuals can cultivate a deeper sense of discernment, enabling them to make decisions that are rooted in self-respect and integrity. Thank you for joining me on this powerful journey to personal freedom. Remember, every no you say is a yes to yourself. In part 2, I'll be sharing practical tips, real-life examples, and how to confidently handle pushback when you start saying no. You don't want to miss it. See you there.